Aiuto. Ci siamo? Oi, che fatica! Allora, cominciamo fra pochissimo. Vedete il mio schermo? E mi sentite? Ok, io mi vedo e mi sento, ci siamo. Eccomi, buonasera a tutti e come state? Studenti, che tragedia, non so qual è il problema, I have no idea what's going on, but it's good to see some of you. I will just post a message on the webinar so that in case somebody gets there, I'll be there in a second, ok? Cominciamo subito. 15 minuti dopo, odio il ritardo. I hate being late. Ok. I will keep that stream going just in case somebody gets there late, but it's going to use my bandwidth, which is never good when you're using Australian internet or Italian internet. Buonasera studenti, come state? Benvenuti, benvenuti. So, what are we doing today? I hope I can share my screen and everything goes fine, but obviously I had not prepared this software to use for this masterclass. But anyway, welcome to everybody who's joining us from all over the world. I can see Graciela from Puerto Rico. Who else is there? Claudia. C'è Laura, c'è Anita. Dove siete? California. Okay. So what are we going to do? Today's masterclass is about mastering the basics of the Italian language, and it's ideally targeting or talking to beginner students, but looking at the names of some of you, I know you're not beginners, but that's okay. And I have so much to cover. I hope it's still engaging, regardless of the technical issues. It's still engaging, and there is a lot of stuff that we're going to cover. In case you have to leave at some point because it's going on for too long, this is being recorded despite all the technical issues, so we're good, all right? And I actually suspect that we might be live for everybody on YouTube. I'm not sure what's going on. I see 49 people watching, and I don't know. If you're watching this on YouTube, well, this is in theory a private stream for Amico extra subscribers of Italy Media Academy, but I don't think it should be open to everybody. I don't think it is. Anyway, let me switch to my slides and start helping you out. Well, I'm going to show you what we're going to cover, what you are going to learn, what you are going to work on, and so on and so forth, okay? So, let me switch to my... Let's see if that works. Now, of course, that doesn't look good. Let me see if we can make it work. Okay, is it a little better? Perfetto. Now, of course, I cannot see your comments, so let me get those now. This is a bit of a tragic, but we'll make it work. Here we go. Okay. So I will also try to put my face on this. Let me see if I can do that so you can see me while I'm teaching this stuff. If you're just joining in, I've had some serious technical issues, and now I'm here. Okay, let me put myself there. Little Manu. There you go. I'm gonna put myself there. Okay, so welcome to everybody. Benvenuti. So this masterclass is about mastering the Italian fundamentals. Why am I doing this? Well, because I help a lot of students from all over the world, although my focus is English-speaking students, because that's who I chose to work with. Also, it's based on my experience, 20 years teaching Italian to English speakers, so I know the issues that you tend to have. And so what we are going to do today is help you make sure that before you progress to more difficult things, you are really, really good with what I call the basics, the fundamentals. And in many cases, this isn't the case. I've worked with thousands of students, and usually the questions that I get, those questions should not be asked by students at that level. I know it's human nature to want to know more, but I usually give the example of my experience when I was trying to learn the violin, and I'm really bad at the violin, and I'm just supposed to just do scales and get the thing to sound decent. And there I was watching videos about the vibrato, which is, if you don't know, it's a very difficult technique that you do with the violin. And this is what happens with many students that I work with. You ask me questions that are way too far ahead of you, and then when I check, can you actually use the right articles? And maybe sometimes you're not. Okay, before we go on, there's something I do want to do with my camera. Let me see. I want to make it a little rounder. Just a little prettier, isn't it? I think, I don't know. Okay, so now we can move it somewhere else. I'll keep it there. Okay, ci siamo. Who said I've forgotten everything? So what are we going to cover? We are going to cover planning for success. How, if you're starting with the Italian language, I want you to succeed, right? And in most cases, as adults, we start something new, and then we get scared that we're not as good as we think we should be, and then we tend to quit. And I don't want you to quit, and it all comes down to having a good strategy and knowing what to do, okay? So, we'll talk about that. That'll come at the end. Then we'll focus on verb conjugation, gender and article, sentence structure, and pronunciation, and the order is going to be the reverse order, okay? So, there's one more thing that I want to do. Give me just a second. I promise I will be back, okay? Okay, so let's talk about pronunciation. That's where I want to start. I'm not going to, I'm not going to explain everything, okay? But I want you to give you the right direction so that you don't get lost and you know what to focus on. So if you're a complete beginner, this lesson is actually for you. If you're a bit more advanced, it's still for good, because I want you to know what you should be doing. Okay, so why does pronunciation matter? Why do I always insist so much that you sound good when you speak Italian, even if you only know 5 words? It's because when you think about logically about language learning, most methods focus on getting the grammar right. And what I say is, no, you should get the pronunciation right as you possibly can, because you want to be understood and easy to understand. Even if your Italian is fully broken, pronunciation is what makes it possible for Italians to follow what you're saying. There is no point going around saying grazie if what you're supposed to say is grazie. Now, of course, you can have a slight off pronunciation of grazie, but that's what you should be saying. Otherwise, the average Italian will not even know that you're saying thank you. Okay, that is why it's so important, okay? Allora, is it really that hard? Is it really that hard to pronounce Italian? Now, I'm going to say, well, it's not, but of course, I'm Italian. Why do I think it's not too hard to pronounce Italian? It's because the English language has way more sounds than the Italian language in terms of possible combination of sounds and actual individual sounds. Italian has much fewer sounds, and most of them do exist in English. There's only a few that don't exist, and that's where you should be getting it wrong. But oftentimes, since nobody's giving you the right information, I find that many students get Italian sounds wrong when I think they shouldn't, because they exist in English. You just have to find them, okay? How can you get it right? How can you get pronunciation right? Well, we'll talk about that at the end of this very long lesson. But you can get it right by hearing as much Italian as possible. But Manu, where do I hear Italian? Well, we're so lucky we got the internet. There's Netflix, there's YouTube, there's podcasts, there's everything. The main thing is that you hear Italian made for Italians by Italians, not Italy Made Easy, not language learning websites, because you want to hear Italian as it is spoken. And I will usually say watch TV. A good tip that I give all of my students is watch QVC on YouTube. It's 24/7 live, and yes, it's infomercials, okay? But it's very good to watch infomercials because they're very visual. So they're talking about a skirt, a telephone, a necklace, or gym equipment. And so you can see visually. Now, of course, as a beginner, you're not going to understand. But the point of hearing Italian is basically, when you think about a child, a newborn, they don't speak. They only hear the language for a couple of years or a year before they start saying stuff. But that pronunciation is not off. I mean, at the beginning it is, but then they end up speaking fluently. How do we do that? That's because we hear a lot of Italian. Compare this with a hearing impaired person. If they cannot hear the national language, if they, let's say Italian, when you don't hear a language, then you're not able to reproduce it, even though a hearing impaired person can actually reproduce. But if you don't hear it, you don't reproduce it. What we do as learners of a language, we focus so much on the wrong things, grammar usually, that we don't spend enough time listening to the language that we're trying to learn, and that is the key. If you want to be able to sound good, hear Italian in the background. Make your life in Italian. Just hear it all the time, even if you don't understand, just hear it, hear it, hear it. Eventually, you will be able to produce those sounds. Now, are there any problem letters? Apart from the vowels that we're going to work on a little bit. Yes, usually R is a problem. Italian R is way different from the English R. It's a lot more frontal, so ra, re, ri, ro, ru. Whereas English R comes from here, like ra, re, ri, like it's totally different position. So you have to work on that. Now the C consonant is confusing only when you look at the words. A very common, let me see if I can switch to that. A very common mistake that English speakers will do is to see that and pronounce it as a ch, because that's what you do in English. And so a word like that, it's very easy that an English speaker will pronounce it chiesa instead of chiesa. It's just a matter of remembering CH is our way of doing K because we don't have K. So yes, C can be a little tricky because it can be pronounced ch or k, for example, as you know, ciao, and then casa. And there is a very quick way to know this. Basically, if your English instinct would make that sound as a s sound, then that is when in Italian it's a ch sound. I'll give you an example. that is the word for chickpeas or garbanzo beans, okay? So that in Italian is ceci. But as an English speaker, you look at that and you might say sesi, because your English brain will make s sound when C is before E and I. Well, guess what? That's when in Italian it sounds ch. So if your instinct says s, then you have to say ch in Italian, basically. And in all other cases, it's k. Of course, I want you to get deep in the topics. Now, on my channel, if you're watching this, on my YouTube channel, I have a ton of videos. We actually have made a mistake of renaming all the videos, and now they're a lot harder to find. But I do have videos on Italian pronunciation. I also have a course on my academy on Italian pronunciation. G consonant is also pretty difficult, because not because of the sounds. G sound, Italian G sound exists in English. It's either g, you have that in English, gate, or it's j, and you have the English jeep. So the two sounds exist in English, so you should be able to produce them. So the problem for English speakers is when you look at the words and you get confused with the pronunciation. And again, I'm just throwing a few Okay, so here's a few words, okay? So the first one is Gino. The second one is giorno, ago, and laghi. So here is, again, it's the problem of when does the G sound, consonant sound J? And I'm going to do this. So the Italian G sound sounds J, like that, like a J, when it's before the I and before the E. So G, J. By extension, it also sounds J when the I is followed by another vowel. And then we have ja, jo, ju. As an English speaker, a pronunciation problem that I hear a lot is pronouncing that I. So saying things like Gianni or Giorno, Buongiorno. The I is silent. So if you want to sound good in Italian, you have to remember that the I is silent, okay? When you see that, we're just trying to do that. But we can't do it because we don't have J in our Italian alphabet. So that's how we do it. Okay? Now, what happens when that happens? Well, it's still a G, because what happens? Why is this G? Why did I say this was the G sound? Well, it's the G sound because, can anybody tell me in the comments, why does that sound G instead of J? In the meantime, I realized that since this stream was notified, I don't know why, the title is totally wrong. We are doing a masterclass on mastering the Italian basics, okay? Pilar, yeah, like spaghetti. Esatto. So something that I usually tell my students is, for pronunciation, for spelling that confuses you, find a template word. So if you know that spaghetti is pronounced ge, Italian is beautifully easy in the sense that it's consistent. So if that sounds ge once, as in ghetto or spaghetti, it's always gonna sound g. It's the H that makes it sound g, but why? Okay. Gemello, twin. Laghetto. The reason it sounds different is in Italian, we need a way to be able to have the ge sound and the j sound, because we have words that need it, and that is how we distinguish. So anyway, do not let the G confuse you in terms of pronunciation, but like I said, it's usually visual confusion, not sound confusion. S, Italian S, confuses many people, many English speakers mostly. I guess even Spanish speakers. Italian S has two sounds. It either sounds S, as in Sam, or it sounds z, as in rose. Okay, rose. Now, how do you know when Italian sounds z? Now, it's quite complicated, depending on what consonant follows. But in terms of the basic idea is that you would pronounce at the beginning of a word, like followed by a vowel, like any vowel, sapere, suonare, and so on. When it's double, passare, okay? And it sounds z between two vowels. And this is something that gives away that you are an English speaker when we hear things like, I don't know, or even a Spanish speaker. Paese. Paese. That s sounds z because it's between two vowels. Paese. Okay, now I see that you are also typing that sound and that sound, I suppose. Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to cover everything, but what I want you to do is I'm trying to get you started with knowing what you should be getting right, and pronunciation is definitely the first thing you have to get right in Italian, okay? Now, the Z, I find Z is confusing in Italian. Now, Italian Z does have two pronunciations. It either sounds S or it sounds Z, okay, like that. Now, both sounds exist in English. Ants, ants, and beds. So you got ts and z. So the sound is not a problem for English speaker, but the problem is, where is it? It's knowing when to make which sound, okay? Now, in this case, zanzara has the two z, zanzara, zanzara. In other instances, has the other one, pazzo. It is actually a little hard to know which sound is produced when, okay? But there is one, so I can't really help you with that because it's a whole lesson on knowing when to make the z and the ts sound, and there's really no definitive answer to that. But there's one thing that I don't want you to pronounce the Italian z as z, and that is the problem. That word, let's forget the potential mispronunciation of the vowels, okay? It's grazie, so it's grazie, grazie. Now, a possible mistake would be to make it with a z sound, so grazie. Now, it's not the way we say it, but that would be an okay mistake because you're not sure between one version of the z sound or the other one. But what I hear a lot, it's this. Well, I can't really spell it, but I'll say it. Grazie, grazie. Italian z never sounds z because what sounds z in Italian? It's this, s. Okay? So if you say grazie, I think that. Grazie, which is not a word, okay? So be careful with never pronounce z as z. It's either s or z. Single or double sound, that's a different story. T. T can be a problem for English speakers, especially North Americans, because of the fact that, especially when it's double, in North America it tends to sound like a D, like spaghetti. It's always, in Italian, it's always a very clean T. Spaghetti. Attore. Trapani. Okay? So it's always a T. It becomes even more difficult for English speakers when it's followed by the R. Like I said, I'm not going to cover R sound. I have 2 good videos and it's covered very well in my course, but why is TR so difficult? Well, again, because in English, that TR ends up almost sounding like a ch. So it's like ch, like treno. That will give away that you're an English speaker because of that. So it's treno, treno. it's never ch. It's never like, it never becomes a ch sound, basically, Italian T. It's always t. So, treno, treno. And I know it's hard, and it does take practice, but I want to point out the things that will make it hard for Italians to understand you. Because, you know, sometimes it's so frustrating. You're learning Italian, and you're sure that you've got this sentence right. You go to an Italian, you say it, and they don't understand. They look at you like, It's because we're Italians, we're not very used to people speaking Italian with a strong accent. It's different for English speakers because you're so used to everybody in the world butchering English, right? Italians speaking it funny, like Germans, everybody speaks English in a different way, but you're used to it. Italians, we are not very used to hearing something that is too remote from the right pronunciation. And so, Marcelo, tarantella, tarantella. That sentence makes Americans crazy. Tarantella. Tarantella is a tense. Tarantella. Okay? Now, here's something that you've never heard before, but English L is often different from Italian L. What? So yes, sometimes your L can be wrong, because in English you have two types of L's, okay? Like the L in late, that's the same as Italian. Late, in Italian we get the word lato. Lato means corner. So late, lato, okay. But then you have the L that you have in all. When you have words like all, your L goes down in your throat. And that the one that I call, it sounds like you've got an apple in your throat, like you're choking. That English does not exist in Italian. And so that's, I don't know if that would happen a lot. Yeah, I guess you would say allora, like if you, and let's forget the R. Let's assume that you got the R sorted. But if you say allora, allora, with that down your throat, it doesn't sound Italian. Now, it's a sound that will not get you confused. They'll still understand you when you get the L wrong, but that's something that I think nobody ever told you. And then, yes, we got GN. It's a ny sound. It's a very nasal n that basically makes your face go funny, like ny. Like, you gotta really look ugly when you say ny, ny. And then we also have the, like I said, the y sound, which is y, which I don't have a really strong one. It's y. And it's a very throaty cross between a g and a l. But it is pronounced as a one sound, y. There will be times when it's pronounced gl, but that's only for the scientific words, okay? Like glicerina, trigliceti. But you're not going to use those words in your everyday conversation. So in your everyday life, that gl will sound y. Famiglia, aglio, okay, and so on. Now, intonation. Let me talk about intonation and why I think you might be getting it wrong. Or intonation is a very strange thing. Now, in Italy, we have many, many ways of speaking Italian depending on the underlying dialect that we learn when we are born. Most Italians still learn the dialect first, and that will change the way we express and use Italian. But overall, I don't want you to worry too much about intonation in Italian, because as we will discover towards the end of this masterclass, the problem is that you think that you have to put effort in your intonation, and what I tell you is you actually don't have to put a lot of effort in your intonation, because if you spoke Italian with the personality that you usually have in your native language, I'm assuming English, okay? Well, when you hear American English, for example, it's actually very vibrant and very wavy. You take that same intonation into Italian and it's going to sound even better because Italian has a lot of vowels, and vowels make you sound like you're singing. You don't have to actually exaggerate, but we'll talk about that later. So the solution, what is the solution to fixing your pronunciation? Is it practice? Is it taking my course? I'm going to tell you it's not. The real solution to getting good Italian pronunciation is immersion. listening to as much Italian as possible. If you're a beginner, please listen to me. Make sure that you spend, I'm going to say a crazy number, but 9 times more time on listening to Italian than you spend studying it. So, what? Well, if you're studying 1 hour of Italian a day, which is a lot for most people, but I kind of would love for you to spend 9 hours listening to Italian. How, man, I've got a life. Yes, but you still shower, you still shave, you still cook, you still drive, commute. Try and listen to Italian as much as possible. You don't have to understand. I know that as a beginner, we give up on the idea of, I'm going to listen to Italian, because you do that with the wrong approach. You say, I'm going to sit down and watch a movie, and then you cry because you understood nothing. You're a beginner. You're not supposed to understand much. You're trying to tell your brain that's what Italian sounds like. And your brain will eventually be able to reproduce the sounds because it's heard them a lot of times, okay? And most methods do not focus on this at all. And that is why after 6 months or even 5 years, you still don't sound very good and people have a really hard time understanding you, okay? Now, let's talk about word order. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't think you should worry too much about this. We're going to cover statements, questions, a problem that I know it's a problem, and then quickly talk about adjectives. So, the Italian sentence structure. I want you to take away this idea that for statements, or the overall Italian sentence structure is going to be the same as English. So, provided you know all the little bits and pieces that make up your thought that you're wanting to express, and right now as a beginner you don't have those pieces, but then you will be able to say pretty much anything in a statement form and get it right. There's going to be the things that you have to know. For example, we omit the subject in Italian, we put the adjectives before the noun, but overall, I don't want you to make word order a problem for you, okay? So let's say that you're trying to say, that you want to say. In your brain, you're trying to express the idea that tomorrow you want to go somewhere, okay? Well, you know, if in English you would say, tomorrow I want to go to, where do you want to go? The supermarket with my friend Pat. Okay, just a random sentence. Let's say that you're trying to express that. You just reminded me, I'm so sorry, I didn't actually touch on the vowels, which was the main thing about pronunciation. I'm going to go back to that. Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Danny. You accidentally reminded me of that in a way. But I'll come back to pronunciation and talk about the vowels, which is what I was supposed to talk about mostly. Let's finish this, okay? Because word order is not that complicated of a topic, I think. So let's say that's the thought you are trying to express. Well, now it's just a matter, do you know the word for tomorrow in Italian? Domani. Do you know how to say I want? Now, of course, in Italian you could say I would like to, you could do that in English. So let's say voglio or vorrei if you're trying to say I would like, okay? Now, to go. To go is what? It's an infinitive in English. How do you say to go? How do you express the idea of going in Italian? Andare. Now, how do you say to in Italian? What's the idea of going to a place? It's a. What's the supermarket? Il supermercato. What's with? Con. What's my? Well, that will depend on the gender of the friend. So let's work with friend. How do you say friend for the masculine? Let's assume Pat is a guy. So what's the masculine, the Italian word for a friend? The old pet debate? I don't know that pet debate. Amico, pet. So how do you say my? Well, in the case of amico, it's il mio. So let's look at this sentence. Now, there is a mistake, but guess what? If you said it this way, you'd be understood. Domani voglio andare a il supermercato con il mio amico Pet. You got a perfect Italian sentence if it wasn't that in Italian we blend a with il, okay? And we say al. Now, of course, as you learn more and more Italian, you will learn how to fix all these little things. And so what I'm trying to say is, don't worry too much about word order. I would rather use speak and just say stuff, because in most cases the thought is quite linear in Italian and it matches English. It does not match English in questions. Okay, so the way we ask a question in Italian is with a question word like dove, come, quando, perché, you know, those how, when, those ones. And we put the verb right after, which is different in English. You know, in English you have the word do to ask questions, which can confuse you as a learner of Italian, because we don't have that do to ask a question, as in what do you like, or which one do you want. That will not transfer to Italian, because the Italian structure for questions is a little different, and so what we'll have is the question word plus the verb, okay? Quando parti? When are you leaving? Perché? Actually, I don't know if I've got the Italian keyboard on. Well, forgive me, I'm going to put an apostrophe, although it should be an accent. Perché studiate l'italiano? Oops. Okay, so perché studiate? So again, you have the question word, quando, perché, dove, come, quale, any question word that you will learn with over time. And then you put the verb conjugated. We'll talk about verb conjugation later. Conjugated for the subject that you are talking about or to. Quindi, perché studiate l'italiano? Jay dice, quale preferisci? Which one you prefer? So in English, again, in English you would say, which one do you prefer? Forget that, it doesn't exist in Italian. So it's the concept of which one, quale, and then the concept of you prefer, preferisci. So that's when questions will cause a problem for you or structure, but now it won't. And why do I say problem of the implied subject? Well, the implied subject is that since in Italian the subject is implied, like when you look at quando parti, we didn't say the subject for you. But as an English speaker, wanting to either exaggerate on like using the subject when you shouldn't. So let's say that you want to say the word tu because you think, Manu, I'm thinking in English, and that's okay as a beginner, and I want to say you, and I'm going to put the word tu. Okay? And here it's studiate, so it's you guys, and I'm going to say the word voi because I want to. Or let's say quando. Let's say you're trying to say when does the train leave. So we'd have quando parte because that's when does it leave, and they say, but I want to say il treno because that, I mean, in the first two examples you don't need to say the subject in Italian, but let's say you want to because, and we'll talk about that as well. So the first two examples, I understand that could happen, but when it comes to the third example, so in the first two examples, I understand that you may want to throw in the subject, and I say don't use it, it's better. But there are times when you do need to have the subject. Like if I want to say when does the train leave, I have to say the word for the train. Otherwise, I'm not asking the right question. As an English speaker, you will put the subject there before the verb. And I'm telling you that in questions, the subject goes after the verb. So we're going to take that and put it there. We're going to take that and, well, I'm going to put it there. Okay, I'm just trying to make sense of some of this, okay? And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it there. So why? Why does that happen? Well, since the subject is optional in Italian, grammatically speaking, quando parti already means when do you leave or when are you leaving, and so we don't need to say tu. But there could be a scenario where I'm trying to ask, hey, when do you leave? Because I've already told you when I leave, and but I want to say when do you leave, and so in English I have to say you. Well, you do have to say you, so, because you're trying to create emphasis. In Italian, you put that subject after the verb, because grammatically speaking, quando parti already means when do you leave or when are you leaving, and so if you want to add the information of you, you add that thing at the end in Italian. Perché studiate l'italiano? It's already grammatically correct. Why are you studying Italian? Why are you guys studying Italian? But if I want to say, why are you guys studying Italian as opposed to them who are not, or as opposed to us, we already told you. So you want to say the voi. Well, trust me, you put that at the end of the sentence because you're adding that information. Perché studiate l'italiano voi as opposed to noi? Okay? Now, this last example is the most typical one where you will make a mistake because you must say the subject. No emphasis needed. You need to say it. Quando parte already means when is it leaving, but you haven't said what. Well, grammatically speaking, the sentence is already correct here. Quando parte. So if you want to say when is the train leaving, you gotta add that at the end of the sentence. So quando parte il treno? A che ora arrivano Marco e Luca? What time are Marco and Luca arriving here? Okay, so that's something that will get you, or usually it would, but not now. Finally, adjectives. Adjectives can be tricky in Italian because the main rule is that you put the adjective after the noun. So in English you have a red car, in Italian you have una macchina rossa. I want you to do that all the time. There's a handful of specific adjectives that can be used before the noun. These are bello, grande, buono. There's a few, magnifico, things like that. They can work before and after, and sometimes it changes the meaning, but I don't want for you to focus on an exception and stuff up where you put your adjectives. Just put them after the noun and you will be fine. Then over time, you will hear Italians say, ah, che bella festa, and not che festa bella. Then you'll worry about it, okay? Now I need to go back to the pronunciation, okay? Because I really messed up not talking to you about the vowels, which was the main thing. Oops. So, now, let me see what's happening here. Let me switch to here. We got 60 students. That's awesome. Now, we are doing a masterclass for Italy Medici Academy students, and we're talking about mastering the Italian fundamentals. Now, for technical reasons, we ended up streaming this on YouTube, but it's only meant for my Academy members. So if you're watching this, keep watching, but you will not find this on the YouTube channel. It's only for members of my Academy, okay? Just making sure nobody gets upset. So, pronunciation. I'm going to say again and really upset a lot of people. I'm going to say that Italian pronunciation is technically easy simply because of the fact that we have much fewer sounds compared to English. Now, English has a ton of vowel sounds. They've been counted. It depends on which version of English you speak, but the average is 17 vowels. There are versions of English with 21 vowels. Although it's still only 5 in the alphabet, okay? Now, Italian makes it easy for you. The only easier language would be Spanish and Japanese with only 5 sounds for those vowels. Italian actually has 7 sounds, but it's still better than 20, right? And so why do I think you have to work on your vowels when you're pronouncing Italian? And this is going to fix most of your problems as a learner of Italian. Italians will understand you if your vowels are right. And they will not understand you if your vowels are off. Compare this with your R is not perfect, your L is English. Doesn't matter, they will understand you. You have to work on your vowels, okay? Now, Italian has these 5 sounds. I'm going to say them. They're always very open sounds and very clear sounds. Now, just a little side note. Again, it's not going to be a full lesson. I have a video here on YouTube that it's called, right now, it's called Italian Pronunciation, Improve Your Italian Language and Learn How to Speak Better Italian. Terrible title. I gotta fix all the titles, but for now, that's the title. And I cover that. And of course, I cover it better in my courses, but... Oh, right. Now, let's talk about this. Italian vowels have to be pronounced openly. Okay, openly, basically. Okay, so, and it's a single sound. So, what do I mean it's a single sound? Most English vowels start with a sound, end with another. For example, this vowel in English, it tends to be O. So it starts with an O sound, and then it ends with an U almost. This one often sounds A. So it's got the E added. Italian vowels are always just the one sound. So unless it's, you see two vowels. So A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. Here's the beauty of Italian. Every time you see an A, you have to pronounce it A. It doesn't matter where it is in the word, okay? Amica. La salvietta, which is the tissue, serviette, napkin. La salvietta. Okay? It's one of the words. La salvietta. Could be a tissue. So that first A, all the A's are the same. La salvietta. Always the same. It does not become las. Yeah, I find that you are not going to. You're not going to mess up the A, I don't think. E is where I hear a lot of. Now, I still hear problems with the A, but for English speakers, I think E is more difficult. Italian E has two sounds, E and E. Some of you don't even hear the difference. Now, E as in egg, egg. E doesn't quite exist, okay? E. You know the word play? Play, play. It's not play. You don't say play. Italians will say play when they speak English. Play. But it's play. That play, that first sound of that vowel, of that couple of vowels in English, will sound, that's the Italian E. Play, play Manuele. Play elefante. Okay? So that is the E that you're trying to replicate. It's either E or E. It's a lot harder to predict when to pronounce which one. But guess what? Italians get it wrong, so I wouldn't worry too much. There is a prescribed way for every single word, but most Italians mess it up based on where they're from, so I wouldn't worry. Now, if you hear my name, my full name has both. Starts with closed E, then opens up, because it's the stressed vowel, or it's the stressed syllable, and you will find that when we stress the syllable, that E tends to open, and then it closes again. So, Emanuele, Emanuele. But there are Italians who will pronounce it Emanuele with all closed vowels, so don't worry too much, okay? Now, I'm going to switch to the Italian keyboard because I need it right now. This word has one way of being pronounced, and it's perché with the closed E. And this one has one way of being pronounced, which is what? Caffè with the open E. Now, I hear Italians say perché all the time. I don't hear Italians saying caffè, but it's not really the problem. The main thing for me as English speakers is that you work on getting the E sound consistently, okay? Do not add vowels. The reason you English speakers have problems with the Italian E is because you add another sound, okay? That's che. I often hear K. Why are you saying E? Well, because that's your instinct, obviously, but if you want to sound good in Italian, you have to remember to only have one sound per vowel. Unless you see two vowels, and then you maybe worry about that. And again, we're not going to talk about diphthongs and like complicated vowel combinations. Americans could think of in E when pronouncing E, yeah, like AH, yes. If you buy like a phrase book, you will often, see the phonetic pronunciation, to help Americans render that. But I find that can be a problem. When I say this, I don't know if those books are helping you, because that would be the word veloce, which means fast, and it's veloce, veloce. Now, giving you that transcription, I don't know if it helps, because yeah, it was like veloce, I don't know. But yeah, I've seen that a lot. Now, Manu, I'm Brazilian. For being a Portuguese speaker, I thought I wouldn't have major problems in using the verb essere and stare. I was wrong. Yes, verb essere and stare can be tricky because English is a lot closer to Italian is a lot closer to English with essere and stare than it is to Portuguese. But not talking about that for now. Now, so e, e do not add sounds. Now, that vowel, it's E all the time. Don't pronounce it something else, like that's idea, idea. I know as an English speaker, your instinct might be to say I, but once you know it's not, you're fine with that. Here's the second problem that I hear a lot. It's that O. Italian O has two sounds, as a closed O and an open O. O, O. So usually cozy and cot. Now, cozy, it's a bit tricky because, at least in my pronunciation, I tend to end a little bit of a U sound in that cozy, but it's not. Italian O is one sound. It doesn't round up to a U. And so here's the problem that I hear a lot from English speakers. I hear bellow. Now, bellow, I'm making the English L. I'm going to switch to Italian L. So everything is right except for the O, okay? Bellow. That bellow, you can say it in my mouth. And so put yourself in front of the mirror and shadow Italians pronouncing the vowels. Use my videos. But you want to keep your eyes on your lips. They shouldn't change. Look at your lips at the end of a word that ends with O in Italian. As an English speaker, your instinct is to round it. Okay? It's not bello, it's bello. Bello. I say it and I don't change my lips. Okay? And if I wanted to stretch it, I still wouldn't change my lips. Bello. Okay? And I find the rounding of that O is the real problem. Okay, I see that you guys are talking about stare and essere. Okay, I'm not going to jump in that conversation. Stay focused, Manu. I have a long session ahead of me. So, now, the open O also is possible. For example, the word però, which means however, però has an open O. It's not però, it's però. Again, when the O opens up in the middle of words like opera, it's open O, opera. But then ovvero, which means or, as in this or that is. Sorry, it means that is, sorry. Ovvero, it's closed O. Should you worry about these differences? Not so much, because again, Italians don't get them right themselves. And so I wouldn't worry too much about getting those right. You can look into Italian vowels with written accent, because that will determine how they're pronounced. And that if there's a way of knowing, then you should get it. Why not get it right? But when it comes to words that you don't know how to predict if it's open or closed, don't worry, okay? Here's another sound that it's often transcribed to English with that, okay? I guess it would work, but only when you're saying things like ooh la la, okay? That kind of ooh, okay? Ooh la la. But the problem is that, I mean, pay attention to how us Italians mispronounce English. That's going to give an indication. That word for an Italian is book. Boo. Like boo. When when I'm trying to scare you, boo. That's how Italians will pronounce that. It's actually not the way it's pronounced in English. So careful when you look at, they tell you that oo is pronounced double O in English. Boot. Boot. I find that it's still a little bit off, because English U is a little bit more rounded than Italian, okay? I'm going to say a few words. Umberto. Uccello. Graciela spelled with double C. Uccello, bird. Uccello. Peru, the country. Peru. So it's not usually a problem for English speakers that burrito. Esatto, burrito. Sì. So in terms of vowels, the exercise that I really recommend you do is the following. First, get the sounds right. Check with an Italian. Am I saying a, e, I, o, u right? Good. Then take all the consonants. That's one of the drills I usually share with my students. Take a consonant and go with the vowel. So ba, be, bi, bo, bu. Kake kiko ku, chache chicho chu, dade di do do. It's basically, it's like the warm-up that singers do before singing. Do that. Which takes me a little bit to intonation and the way many English speakers end up speaking Italian. Not just English speakers, actually. This one is it's common to all learners of Italian, and it's with a slight parody exaggeration. Okay, and I can't remember if it's coming up ahead in my slides. Let me just have a quick look. No, it's not coming up. Oh, unless I put it in here. Just give me a second. Just want to make sure that I don't repeat myself like later. No, don't look at my slides. Okay, so, no, okay. So what's the problem with the intonation? Actually, I covered that in this same video here on YouTube, okay? But it's very easy to exaggerate Italian to the point of parody. No, actually, I just remembered I do have this topic later, okay? So watch that video later, and you will see what I mean. Most of the times, I hear students of Italian, who've learned Italian to a degree, obviously, they end up speaking like, if you watch like Family Guy or any American-produced movie with Italians, or there's a character that pretends to be Italian, and it's the usual exaggeration, I don't know what you're saying, that kind of stuff. Well, that's how many students end up sounding when they speak Italian, in Italian, right? And so, I hear most people saying, Buongiorno, come stai? And that is because you are trying, and you're right about this, when you hear Italian, you hear melody, you hear music. And then you say, I want to learn Italian because it sounds like you're singing, and then you exaggerate. Let me give you the secret. The reason why Italian sounds so singy, it's because of the vowels. We have many, many vowels, and each word has a ton of vowels, and the Italian word for vowel is vocale, and to vocalize is to sing in English, right? And so don't exaggerate your vowels. If you watch that video, I say every vowel has the same weight. You don't have to do like the buongiorno, where you're overly pronouncing the buongiorno. Like, don't do that. Buongiorno. Buongiorno. It sounds good because of all the vowels, okay? So get your vowels right and you'll be fine, but I realize that it comes later as well. Anyway, let's move on to the third topic that I want you to really get good before you move on with Italian. Now, I'm going to take a little break while I'm on camera. This is for friends. It's a friendly. Let me see. Okay, we're just friends here. Okay, and so I don't pretend to be this perfect presenter. I don't want to be. I'm your friend and I'm your coach, and I would love to read some of your messages, which now I'm not sharing on the screen, but I just need to take a break, okay? Ida, Manu, hai detto che ha un video con le vocali? Sì, ho vari video. Ho un video sulle vocali, proprio su YouTube, che è preso dal mio corso Speak Italian Like in Italiano, un corso di pronuncia. E poi c'è il video che si chiama, qui su YouTube, il titolo adesso è Italian Pronunciation, Improve Your Italian Language and Learn How to Speak Better Italian. Okay, so terrible title, it was changed by mistake, but that's what it's called today. Okay, I'm ready. I am ready. Let me switch to, if I can find it. Yes, okay. Gender and articles. This will be your first obstacle with learning Italian. Now, if you're an English speaker, if you're, Spanish speaker, Portuguese speaker, French, you're not gonna have a problem because you have gender in those languages too. But for Italian, for English speakers, this is usually tough to digest. Why does the bottle have to be feminine? Why does the glass have to be masculine? There's no real reason. We just have to accept it. But of course, there are ways for you to predict the gender of a word. It's not infallible, but you need to be able to get over the fight that you have with why do things have gender? They just do. It's not related to the subject, to the owner of the object. The bottle is feminine no matter who's holding it, and the glass is masculine no matter who's holding it. Here's the thing. I'm going to, let's say, kind of give you the basic idea. And I mean, here's the thing. Why is my approach so different from anything else that you found online or offline? I'm aware that the information like what's a masculine word in Italian, you can find that information anywhere. Wikipedia has articles on Italian grammar. You can buy an Italian grammar book. What I like to be for you is a language coach. I don't like identifying myself as a language teacher because this information is out there. So why do you need my help? I mean, why do my students follow me? It's because I make sense of all this and I help you find ways to remember and apply, which is the only thing. Knowing means nothing. Applying means everything. So, now Linda, I like that. Linda says, I have been attending lessons once a week for 2 hours but can barely speak a word. Yes. I'll talk about this at the end of this long lesson, okay? Buonanotte a tutti if you're going to bed. If you're an Amico Extra subscriber of Italy Medici Academy, you will find this in the recordings for the master classes, okay? This is not going to be on YouTube. Now, why, Linda, your problem is normal. It's not your problem. The problem is with the idea that the world has of language learning. The only reason a toddler ends up speaking the language, it's not because they're studying grammar. It's not because they're doing exercises, fill in the blanks, drills. It's not because they are told to think in English or not think in English. It doesn't matter. Well, the only thing that matters is because they hear the language a lot. That is how they're going to learn it. So, as a student of any language, or any musical instrument, or any sport, we have this delusion, and it's not Linda's fault, we all do it, and it's because we thought, okay, I'm going to learn Spanish, I'm going to get a tutor and go and see them once a week. First of all, that 1 hour probably will be wasted on that person speaking to you, explaining things, because they have to explain things, otherwise you're not learning. And then that's all you do for Spanish or Italian. And so, Linda, even if you were spending $1,000 a month in private lessons and you saw that person 5 hours a week, it still wouldn't get you speaking Italian or understanding it. And that is because that time would be spent mostly in learning mode and not in immersion mode. You have to create your own immersion, and we'll talk about that at the end of this masterclass, okay? But not your fault, and it's not your teacher's method or fault. I'm sure that they're helping you in the right way with Italian, but expecting your brain to learn a language by just putting in 1 hour with the tutor and maybe an extra hour doing, like a Duolingo to learn some vocabulary, you're not going to get far. That is what it's blocking all of us with languages. I'll help you with this. So back to gender and articles. You have to get gender right because the gender of an item, of the noun of a sentence, will determine everything else, basically. Anything that is said about that bottiglia has to be feminine. If you don't get it right, the problem is that, what's the big deal if I'm talking about a bottiglia and I use the masculine stuff? Everything I say is masculine. The problem is this, that as an Italian listener, you will be talking about bottiglia, but you will also be talking about your brother Stephen. So when later I hear adjectives in the masculine, I will associate those adjectives to Stephen, not to the bottle. Now that's an extreme case, and it assumes that the Italian person you're talking to is a bit stupid. But imagine the situation where where you are shopping and you are looking at shoes, skirts, shirts, whatever you're buying, and you don't get the gender right, then the shop person will be confused because unless you're touching the item, if you use the wrong gender, they will assume they're talking about the other thing. And then they will sell you the other thing. And so that is why a lot of confusion happens. So getting gender right. Now, usually masculine words end with O in the singular and I in the plural. So the easier example is ragazzo, ragazzi, boy, boys, guy, guys, okay? Now, feminine words usually end with A in the singular and E in the plural. And again, we have ragazza, ragazze. Now, I'm using this word as the example because it's about humans. It's a lot easier to see gender in humans. But those words could be objects. It could be telefono, telefoni for masculine, and bottiglia, bottiglie for the feminine. And so that's the general rule. But then you have words that end with E. And that is a problem. And if you look at my slides, the problem with the E ending. If you look at my chart, which I know it's not pretty because I wasn't going to prepare slides. I wanted to be as free-flowing as possible, but not being on the usual platform where I do my webinars, it's a bit more hard. But anyway, there are words that end with the E. Oi, Manu. They end with the E in the singular. And then how do you know? For example, you've heard the word cane, means dog. Pane means bread. These are singular words that end with the E. And so how do you know if a word is a singular that happens to end with E, whose gender you cannot predict, or if it's a feminine plural? Okay? So, for example, let's take the word pane. Now, pane, if you know what it means bread, then you know that it's singular because it's the bread. Okay? But let's say you saw the word and you didn't know, pane. How do you know that it's not a feminine plural? So like the singular being pana, plural being pane. Well, you don't. That's when you pay attention to what's around it. Il pane bianco. Now there's two more things saying that that word is masculine. And if you look at the article that we're going to talk about very soon, and the adjective bianco, then you know it's singular. So that is how you will know, okay? And I don't think you should worry about those words and make a whole big fuss about them, okay? Go with what's the rule. Here's the thing. Learning a language is not easy. There's a lot to learn, okay? It's not like reading a book from cover to cover. There's 100 pages, then you're done. It's a language. It's endless. But you can speak that language at any level and still communicate. The problem with all methods, Rosetta Stone, oh, I said it, Duolingo, it's just to give you the satisfaction that you think you're learning, but most of the times you're not, because if you can't use it and you can't understand it, you're not learning, really. Unless you're just wanting to read books. But hopefully you want to speak to Italians and go to Italy. And so the problem that we all make in learning a language is that we so focus on the exceptions. Let's focus on the rule. It works most of the time. And so look at a word and assume what it's easy to assume, okay? Now, articles is the problem because you should not keep learning Italian unless you know exactly when to use these articles, and I think I got all of them. La, l'apostrophe, le, il, lo, gli, and I. So, as you can see, Italian has many articles, all to say the in English. So, why? Well, Italian likes to sound good, and it's all about making things sound good. Now, of course, there's the grammatical need for masculine and feminine. So let's divide them by gender. Which of these articles, if you know this, are feminine. So which ones should we be using for feminine words? La and le. There's another one. Ah, you already said it, I think. No. Yes, L apostrophe, I think. So, la, le, and which ones are masculine? I'm just waiting. I know you usually I share the chat, but that's how it's going to happen today. Everything is wrong. The title of the video is wrong. Everything's wrong. Tutto il resto, I don't like that answer because I want you to also include the L apostrophe. So it's il, lo, L apostrophe, I, and ye, right? Now, of course, so that's feminine and masculine. But then we have the issue of, well, some are singular, some are plural. So for feminine, la and L apostrophe are singular, and le are plural. And for masculine, and I'm going to get rid of those. You might say, Mano, I know this, but yeah, but do you get it right? For masculine, we got il, lo, and L apostrophe being singular, and I and ye being plural. Why so many again? And it all has to do with how we want the word to sound when we put it with the article. And so the standard article for a feminine word is la. La ragazza, la pizza, la pasta. Okay. But if the word starts with a vowel, it just doesn't sound good to say la insalata. La insalata. So we just help you pronounce it by saying l'insalata. I have to switch back to the keyboard that I see in front of me because it's driving me crazy. All right. L'insalata. Okay, so that's why we have L apostrophe. Feminine words in the plural all use le, so that's easy. So le ragazze, le insalate, le pizze, that's okay. Masculine is a bit more complicated because there's more scenarios for masculine, believe it or not. So the standard article for masculine words is il. Il ragazzo, il pane, il cane, il libro. Now you can guess when we use L apostrophe for vowels that start with a, for words that start with a vowel, right? For example, l'amico, l'amico. We're not going to say il amico, but why? Because it's just not as good. It doesn't sound as good, il amico. It's easier to say l'amico, isn't it? Il amico, l'amico. Easier l'amico. So we say l'amico. And then we have lo, which is the one that many of you don't like it. Okay. And it's for words, for masculine words that start with an already difficult consonantic sound. I don't know if that's even a word. But why? If the standard article is il, that's an odd word for Italian because usually Italian words end with a vowel, but il does not. That causes problems because let's take a word that has a very strong consonant sound at the beginning. Straniero, foreigner, stranger. If you look at this word, it's a very unusual word. It starts with 3 consonants in Italian, and Italians love vowels. Okay? We love to sprinkle vowels every other consonant, basically. So that's an odd word for Italian already. It's got a stra, 3 consonants. Imagine if we had to say il. Well, we'd end up saying, we're having to say il straniero. We would have 4 consonants in Italian. That's just, no. That's not something that we want. So Italians will say, oh, well, I'm going to make it easier by detaching the article, because when you say il, that blends with the word. Il pane sounds like one word. I'm going to not use il, and I'm going to use an article that has a vowel for itself, and that's lo. Lo straniero. There are other words that use lo. I've seen some sp. Lo spagnolo, the Spaniard. Again, because spa is a difficult consonant sound. Now, it doesn't mean that if you have 2 sounds, you're going to use lo. Like, for example, we don't say lo treno, we say il treno, because I guess it's still easy to say tre, and it's not that complicated. So, SM Talk, you had gne, lo gnomo, the gnome. Lo psicologo. Psicologo, the psychologist. Let's go with the simpler ones. Lo zaino. Manu, hold on. Z, that's a single consonant. How is that even a problem? Z is a problem because of the pronunciation. Remember how what Z sounds like? It either sounds like that, which is not, in this case, like tsa, or it sounds like that. Za. When you look at za, that's a difficult consonant sound. So if we had to say il za, it would just strangle an Italian. It would choke, okay? So we don't use il, we use lo. Lo zaino. Now, when you go, if you understand this and you start applying it, and I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna do an exercise without doing the technological side of it. But when you know that il is the standard article, so I'm going to underline what I tell you are the default articles for feminine words, la le, and what is the standard article for masculine words, il, I. So, Manu. All right. Well, you forgive me. Il cane, I cani. Il libro, I libri. So, we're good. And then we have ye. Ye is the article that we use for masculine words that in the singular used either of those. Why is that a problem? I mean, why is that happening? When you look at L', do you know what an apostrophe is in Italian? It's a sign that a vowel has been dropped. What vowel? O. So these L' and lo are basically the same article. One is shortened because the word starts with a vowel, the word afterwards, so l'amico, but it's still lo, okay? So in the plural, they will both use ye, which honestly, I don't see how it simplifies the pronunciation because I hate the sound ye, but it does, okay? So let's go back. Oh, let's go back to stranieri here. Ah, come on. Okay. Stranieri. Stranieri, that's the plural of strangers or foreigners. Now, the instinct would be to use I stranieri. But remember that is a difficult consonant sound. And yes, saying I could work because we're not adding a consonant. But grammatically speaking, ye is the plural for these two. So we have to use ye. Gli stranieri. Okay, for the foreigners. You will find that many Italians will make a mistake and use I. I hear Italians say I spaghetti, I gnocchi, and let them do it, okay? So, don't let them do it. Correct their Italian if they're saying I stranieri because it's incorrect. So now, having said this, I would love for you to do a little game with me and attach in the chat, if you are watching this live, type in the chat the article for the words I'm going to throw at you, okay? Gonna start very easy. Penna. Okay, so la penna. Perfetto. Carota. Carota è still la carota. Acqua. Acqua. Now we start with the easy ones, okay? It's L', it's l'acqua. L'acqua. L', l'acqua. How about zanzara? Zanzara means mosquito. Now, here could be tricky because you might think, oh, starts with Z, I'm going to use lo. No, because it's only for masculine, so you have to say la zanzara. La zanzara. Now, carote. Carote, carrots, obviously. Le carote. Carote, perfetto. Elefante. Elefante. L'elefante. Now, this one, it's one of those words that it's singular and it ends with e. It's masculine, but it ends with e. It doesn't end with o. We don't have the word elefanto. But here's what it is. Since you could tell what it means, you knew that it was one of those things. One elephant. And so you didn't have to worry about, is it a feminine plural? I'm going to show you this. Well, it might not work because maybe you know what it means. Piante. Okay, so when you look at this word, if you don't know what it means, it could be tricky because you could think, oh, it's like elefante. It's a singular thing, so it's going to be either masculine or feminine. I'm going to say il piante or la piante. But it's the plural of pianta. It's the feminine word for plants. And so this one would be le piante. The plants. Now, I could have helped you, and guess what it is? That's what happens. I don't want you as much. Look, I recently opened the option to leave a review for my courses on Intermediate Academy, and I cried every single review because it was so, like 5 stars. Everybody's so excited. Everybody has learned Italian, or they're learning it. Everybody's so satisfied. And then there was only one 4-star review, and I thought, what is it? What did I do wrong? And I went to read, and it's a great course, only not enough exercises. That's a fair criticism, but I do not want you to do exercises or to focus on exercises. That is why all, I'm going to say most language courses in school fail you. Most academic courses fail you. Most civic center, library course fail you because all they do is exercises, okay? And if you only do exercises, you will get a false confidence that you know this stuff. The real test is when you speak with Italians. And so as you hear somebody's telling me that you're losing the signal, it looks good to me, okay? So, okay. So if you, where are we? The real test is in the pudding, right? And so if you have to pay attention to what the Italians are saying, because I'm never going to just say to you piante, like out of the blue, right? I will say things like, le mie piante sono bellissime. My plants are awesome. Which is not true because I kill everything. But le mie piante sono bellissime. Well, now you know for sure that piante is feminine plural because everything else is telling you. And so do not, that's why I say don't go crazy over, oh, I don't understand gender, I don't know how to predict it. If you start speaking with Italians, you will know, okay? Because they will tell you, without telling you, but they will tell you the gender, the number of everything. And so, yes, it's hard if you're learning in a bubble. It's just you and your book, or you and your Duolingo, or you, if you don't have community around you, or practice, then you will think it's really hard, but it's not as hard as we think, okay? Now I'll give you a few more words, okay? Zio. Zio. This word, you will hear this word pronounced zio in the south and zio in the north. What's the article for this one? Lo zio. Lo zio, the uncle. Okay? Alright, let me give you a word. Yogurt. Yogurt. Well, here, it's a matter of, do I know the gender of this? You don't, maybe. So, then I would say, again, everything is white today. Like, I don't know, yogurt bianco. I don't eat yogurt, I don't know. It's lo yogurt. Lo yogurt. Why not il? Well, because that yo is the equivalent of this in Italian, and that is a tough sound in Italian. And so we have to use lo. So I'm not going to go on too much with this topic. Actually, I'm going to end here, but I want you to be really, really good before you move on to worrying about, I want to speak in the past. I want to know the subjunctive. Don't ask your teacher or anybody to explain to you how the subjunctive works, how the imperfecto works, if you're still not sure about your articles. A good exercise that you can do is go to a website like Quizlet. They have decks of cards, like just vocabulary words, or you could use anything that you have with words, and just test yourself whether you can attach an article quickly without thinking, and knowing in your gut why it sounds better. For as long as it's a mental exercise, it's going to slow you down, take you too long to say what you need to say. It will affect your confidence, and then there's a risk that you might give up. And I don't want you to give up, and that is why we are going to do the final section of this class, okay? Which I have to speed up because, well, we started 20 minutes later, but... Now, verb conjugation, this is a big one for English speakers to digest, and that is because we don't really have much verb conjugation in English apart from using the right tense. So, of course, there is a difference between I study and I will study and I would study and I studied, because it's a different tense. We have tenses in Italian too. But by verb conjugation, I mean that every subject has its own verb. Very much like the verb to be in the singular. It's I am, you are, she, he, it is. I don't say I is or she am. That's just each subject has its own verb. That is something that it will take you some time to master, and I'll give you a little exercise in a second. Now, master the relevant ones. What do I mean by that? Now, of course, actually, before I talk to you about that, the problem that I see a lot of students struggle with is actually not so much knowing that a verb that is conjugated for noi ends with iamo. Like parliamo, we speak, we are speaking. Andiamo, we go, we are going, or let's go. So you might even know that intellectually. What I find often is the problem is that you're using the wrong verb conjugation for the subject. And so you have to really get good at, as a beginner, you have to know who the subject of the sentence is so that you can use the right verb. So, of course, if you're the speaker, then you're going to have the verb end with o in the present tense. So, io parlo italiano, io insegno l'italiano, io mangio la pizza. That's okay. But I often see the problem is with the third person that you don't seem to want to use. So if the subject is anything it, that in Italian we don't even have a word for it. We used to have esso, but don't believe people who tell you that esso is a word, because it's a word, but I wouldn't use it, okay? So if I want to talk about it, I would just say the name of it, or I would just say quello, that thing over there, okay? So don't use esso in speech. But the thing is that if the subject is a third person, what's a third person, Manu? Okay, sorry, I'm a linguist. First person is the subject. When you speak in the first person, you are the doer. When you speak in the second person, the subject of the sentence is who you're talking to. That is tu in Italian. When you speak in the third person, that means the subject is not me and not the speaker, not the listener, but somebody else or something else. So that's it, he or she. Now, in Italian, that could also mean you, sir, you, ma'am, but we're not going to touch on that for now, okay? That's not a major problem. So, if your subject is il treno, then il treno arriva, it arrives. And I find that oftentimes you know that the third person of arrivare is arriva, but then you do not use it when the subject is the third person, like il treno arriva. It's even more confusing when the subject of the sentence is noi, we, or voi, you guys, okay? So you might know that noi verbs end with iamo in the present tense, so parliamo, cantiamo, mangiamo, and that voi verbs end with ate or ete or ite, like parlate, prendete, partite, depending on the group the verb belongs to, that I'm not going to explain. Like I said, this is not about teaching you the stuff, it's about pointing out what you really need to be good at, okay? And so, you might know that intellectually, but then, are you actually using it? If you're talking to me and my friend, are you going to say, quando partite? And what I find is that usually it takes too long for you to process that information. So what's the drill that I recommend? Now, usually, like I said, I don't do exercises like as in writing, but there's a really good drill that you can do out loud, like, by yourself, okay? And is get a list of verbs that are regular if you're only working with regular verbs, or are irregular if you know them, and then get maybe a die, like that you roll, and then a die has 6 numbers, and the possible subjects for Italian are 6, like io, tu, lei or lui, which is like a third person, noi, voi, and loro for them. So when you roll the die, depending on the number, that's your subject. So if you get a 3, the subject has to be in the third person, lei or lui or it, okay? And then, so you think of a verb, you look at the verb, and you say the verb is parlare. And then you just roll the die, and as soon as you see the number, you don't just say parlo, parli, parla. You don't just conjugate it. You have to internalize what you're saying. So if it's io, then you will make a sentence. Very simple sentence, but io parlo italiano. And you do this. You're creating the link in your brain that the verb parlo means io, so that when you later on start ditching the io, because you don't need to say it in Italian, your brain will know that if it's parlo, it's me. So you roll the die and it's tu. Then take a friend, sit them in front of you, or just like tu, and you point. Tu parli italiano? Do you speak Italian? And then your brain will slowly connect that the parli is when you're talking to a friend. Then when you roll a 3, then it's about the third person, and then you can have friends or maybe cats or whatever you've got. And then you will say, Maria non parla italiano. Maria doesn't speak Italian, but you are actually mentally feeling in your brain that Maria, okay, another thing that works is take cutouts of celebrities. Go to the hairdresser and rip off a couple of pages. and then you have, I don't know who you've got in front of you, but yeah, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. And then you just, as long as you pronounce their name in Italian, Brad non parla italiano. Angelina parla italiano. But then your brain connects that. And so when it comes to noi, you have to hug a friend. And I know it's an exaggeration, but you want your brain to do that, to know that if you say parliamo, you're talking to us. You are part of that parliamo. Here's the problem. Often you don't think that parliamo includes you. It does, because it's we. And we includes me, right? A che ora andiamo a cena? What time are we going to dinner? But you gotta think that it's me included. And the same with voi. You gotta talk to Angelina and Brad together and talk to them and say, voi, dove abitate? Where do you guys live? Okay, so that's a really good drill to get your brain to know what verb to use. This was only in the present, but the thing is, when you're very good at the present tense and you just conjugate the verb like that, when you move to a different tense, you'll know already how this works and your brain will not struggle, actually. Okay, so here's what I want you to take from this masterclass. How do you plan for success? Because like I said, I'm your coach. I don't care about teaching you how to use whatever, because you can look it up and find it yourself. For me, it's help you to digest it and apply it. And the main things as a beginner of any language, I'm going to say Italian, is it's so easy to get to a point where you give up because it's too difficult. You're not as good as you thought you would be. Now, first of all, I would ask myself, am I really putting in the time to be that good? Because to give you a sports analogy, okay, you can not be able to play tennis. You don't know Italian. You'll be able maybe to know that there's a racket and a ball and a net, and that is like you saying, you know, in buongiorno, grazie, arrivederci. Not very useful, right? Then you'll be able to maybe hit the ball every now and then with the racket, but not a lot of the times. And that would be to just be able to say the things that Duolingo gets you to say, basically. That's an equivalent, okay? Then there's the level of, you can play a match and be really bad, but you're actually playing. And that could be maybe at the end of a degree, at the end of studying Italian at school for a long time. You can kind of do stuff, not well, but it's all right. And then there's the Sunday player. Okay, you play every Sunday, you're actually not bad. Well, then you speak Italian, you're not that bad. And then there's doing local championships, and then there's, you know, all the way up, okay, to the US Open. Well, Italian, any language is the same, and so you have to be honest with yourself. How much am I playing the game? Am I just a Sunday player, which means I only go to one tuition, you know, one class with a teacher, and then all I do is spend an hour maybe learning words? Well, that's less than a Sunday player, because you're actually not using the language, you're just knowing stuff. But that's why I say, if you want to do something, focus on those top 3 things, okay? Pronunciation. You need to sound good, because it's like being able to hit the ball or not hit the ball. If your Italian is excellent in your head, but then when you speak it, it sounds so bad because all your vowels are off, Italians won't understand you, so it's like you're not playing the game. So do work on your pronunciation. Vocabulary. You gotta have words to use in the things you say. Otherwise, you're not saying. So, of course, if the more words you know, the more things you can express. Last night, I'll tell you, I love sharing stories because they trigger something in your brain that makes you remember, makes you connect. And that is why my students, 100% are successful. Check out the academy, since now I'm talking to the public instead of just my academy students. But you who are in my courses now, you know why you are with me. And it's not like I like to blah, blah, blah. It's all psychology that I play with you to make you remember and apply things. And so last night I went out with 2 Brazilians. I had the guts to go on a Facebook page and say, hi, I'm Italian, not Brazilian. I love to catch up with some Brazilians. 48 people interacted with that post, and to say, yeah, let's go out. So I went out and we're talking, and you know, my Portuguese is all right. And then they used the word, like the equivalent of the cradle of civilization, talking about a beer, which is from a certain city. And guess what? I knew the word for cradle in Portuguese. I didn't even know I knew, but the fact that I knew that word allowed me to not get stuck in a conversation. And so what I want you to do is expand your vocabulary. The more words you know, the more confident you are when you're talking to Italians. So you sound good because your pronunciation is on point. Your vocabulary is good. So the grammar bits, the correctness, that fills in the blanks, really. Okay, because you still gotta conjugate verbs, you still gotta put the prepositions. I'm not saying that it's easy, but, and then immersion. This is going to really, 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 really make a difference for you. And that is, listen to Italian. Again, if all you do is spend 2 hours a week working on Italian, I'm so sorry to be the only one who tells you, you ain't gonna learn Italian. You will be able to say things, little things. That is the frustrating part of any student who comes to me. My courses, my beginner courses are filled 80%, 90% of of students who have studied Italian before. So why would you join a beginner course? Well, because in most cases, 90% of cases, your programs don't make you do that. They don't tell you that you should do immersion. So instead of spending half an hour a day studying grammar or doing exercises, which you might if you're a really good student, switch that. Do 1 hour of study, and 9 or 7 or whatever, how many days you're gonna work on Italian, the other 6 days, just listen to Italian, but not for an hour. Just have it in the background the whole time you are alone, basically. If you're alone, you should be listening to Italian. You're not going to understand a thing. It's okay. That is not the point of immersion. So like I said, QVC, any podcast that it's for Italians, don't listen to, okay, listen to my stuff. I have podcasts too, but listen to that as a training tool. But listen to, if you like, I don't know, if you like Photoshop, watch tutorials on Photoshop. If you're into makeup, watch tutorials, watch YouTube people on makeup. If you like travel, there's a really good travel vlog, In Viaggio con, In Viaggio con il tubo, something like that. They're really great. It's an Italian couple, they travel and they vlog. Their Italian is really good, it sounds really clean and beautiful. And I think the name is In Viaggio con il tubo, but I might be wrong. Now, Connor, is music okay? To be totally honest, not so much. It's okay, it's still Italian and you're exposing yourself to the culture and, it's totally fine, but we don't speak like we sing. I mean, there are times when I don't understand the Italian songs, and so music is not the best tool. Now, is reading good? Now, I'm not going to say that reading is not good, because by reading you will learn good grammar, good vocabulary, but the problem with reading is that you don't hear it. So unless it's an audiobook, okay, I'm actually working on an audiobook for you, like a training audiobook. And so you are, with a book, you're just reading it. So you are hearing yourself. And you don't speak Italian too well, otherwise you'd be speaking Italian, right? And also, the way books are written, it's usually a higher level register. Like in English, we do not really speak the way we write in books, because books are meant to be beautiful. And I'm not saying that when we don't speak beautifully, but everyday conversation is a lot lower. There's a very sad study that shows that most English speakers, and I'm going to add uneducated English speakers, they get by their entire life with 600 words. It's actually the same for Italians. It's like 800 words. Now, of course, an educated person usually uses 2,000 words. That is all. Like your entire life, all you use is 2,000 words. Now, of course, you know more than that, but you don't use them when you're speaking with your family and friends. And so, as a learner, that's good for you. So I don't think books are the best way to learn. Now, TV and movie, good and bad. The risk with Italian media is that you don't know whether the person who's appearing in a movie, for example, you don't know if they're speaking a dialect, like a kind of easy to comprehend or understand dialect for Italians. For example, there are some dialects that are not too hard to understand, like the Florence dialect, the Rome dialect. They're okay. Most Italians would be able to follow. There are other dialects that are so different from Italian that we don't understand them. And so some characters may be speaking with a dialect, but you, as a non-Italian, you wouldn't know. So if you watch like reality TV, like those, I'm going to say trashy talk shows where there's people fighting, there's no guarantee that that person is speaking proper Italian. And so that's a little bit more difficult. So for example, on the Academy, we do provide the service of telling you what that person is speaking. If you say, oh, yeah, I'm watching this. And then we say, oh, yeah, that's good Italian. Okay, so now, shadowing or parody. That's something that I was touching on before, and then we're nearly done, okay? Here's this. I do recommend you do shadowing exercises. Just grab another glass of water, okay? Jim, I haven't said truculent in years. I don't even know what truculent means. And yet my English is alright, I think. You're watching me. That's right. So there are some words that we know but we don't use. Use that to your advantage, because Italians are not going to use them either. Now, shadowing, what exercise is that? I actually have some shadowing videos. I have a lot more in my courses. But shadowing is when you familiarize yourself with a text that is spoken in Italian by an Italian at a naturalish speed. And you have the text, the transcription for it, okay? So, you would play that audio over and over again, and then you would try to match the pronunciation and intonation of every single word, every single group of words, every single sentence, every paragraph. But in the end, and that might take you 100 times, you play the recording or the video, whatever it is, and you imitate that person. I have people who shadow me in life. That's annoying. Somebody speaks and they repeat what you're saying. That's annoying. So don't do that. Unless they're willing to play the game with you. If you're paying for somebody to be your tutor, then say, hey, buddy, let me shadow you. And say, okay, talk about whatever. Talk about your family. And stop at every sentence. And they will say, I don't know. Mia madre si chiama Patrizia. And then you would go and say, you're not going to say, mia madre si chiama Patrizia, because that's what they say. No, you know, you have to say the same way. Mia madre si chiama Patrizia. So you would imitate everything. Now, it's easier to do it with a recording because it's always consistent. But shadowing is really good. But when is it shadowing and when is it parody? And that's the thing I was saying before, for which I recommend this video of mine, this one here. And that is, don't exaggerate. Don't try to make the melody by exaggerating the vowels. The melody is already there because of the vowels, because they exist in the word. And so just last night, I was looking at a few things for a lesson that I was planning, and this video comes up. And I don't know if that person is Italian or not Italian. She was teaching Italian pronunciation. I play the video, I go randomly in the video, and I hear that person say, vino. Immediately, I knew she wasn't Italian. How can I, with one word, know that she's not Italian? Now, here's a good test that you can do. Can you fool Italians into thinking you're Italian with one word? Now, pick a word that that's not difficult for you. Like, don't say treno if your TR is not good, of course. You know, so pick a word like it's a totally alright word. Like buongiorno, buongiorno. Say that word and get real feedback. Do I sound Italian with one word? One word. Because of course, I mean, you know, I don't sound English. I'm Italian. That's fine. I have an accent. I'm not saying that you should not have an accent. Accents are fine and they're beautiful as long as you are easy to understand. And so that's a good test. See if you can sound Italian with one word. Now that girl, I don't know who she was, and I'm not like dissing her, but I heard one word, vino. She was saying how E sounds, right? Vino. How do I know that it's not Italian? Well, because that's an exaggerated E. We don't do that, okay? Roberto Benigni does it. He's a comedian, he's a caricature. Some uneducated, like lower class, you know, like some, I'm not saying that it's not possible that anyone would say that, but we don't say it overall, okay? And so, of course, there's always somebody who says something in a different way, but the moment she says vino, I didn't know. I knew that she wasn't Italian. How would an Italian say vino? Vino. There is the same weight on the E as there is on the O. Vino. Vino. So, are you exaggerating? Are you saying vorrei, I'm screaming, sorry. Vorrei del vino. If you're saying il vino, you are that's a parody. It's not shadowing. Okay. So grammar and exercises, I've actually already touched on that. Of course you need grammar. I love grammar. I'm a linguist. I've learned 5 languages. I love grammar. I'm always dinging like in the grammar of my languages. And I know it's useful. I don't trust people who say, you don't need grammar. No. grammar is, it makes up the sentence, so you do need it. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be totally accurate. It doesn't have to be right all the time. Look at how English speakers speak English, right? They don't all use proper grammar, and you still understand them. You just know that they are from a certain social world. That's fine. They're still native of English. It's the same for Italian. So grammar is not that big of a deal once you know how it overall works. Exercises. I'm not a fan of the traditional exercise, like the fill in the blanks, the drills, the conjugate this sentence, and that is 95% of what you find. So if you go to uni, that's what they assess you on. If you go to school, same. If you learn with a book, that's the same. Like most programs assess you that way, with like filling the blanks, which only checks that you understand the exercise and then you know that grammar bit. But nobody ever checks that you can use it. So my exercises are like probably 5% that, 10% that in my courses. If you're in my courses, you know. And the rest is very unique exercises that make you think in Italian, speak in Italian, produce stuff in Italian, get used to understanding spoken Italian. Like they're very challenging. And here's the risk with my courses. If you're like, what's the word, weak of heart? No, I forgot. Like if you get broken easily, you might find that my courses are way too much, because they're very intimidating in a way, because here I am, Unit 2, watch this video in Italian. And the instinct as an adult will be, oh, but I'm not good at that. I don't understand. Oh, this exercise is not good for me. I would rather fill in the blanks and conjugate the present tense, because that's comforting. But what's the reality of speaking a language? You want to understand it. And so the sooner you start doing the real exercises, the better your results are. And look, since I'm speaking to the world, this is public. Check out the reviews of my courses on the Academy. Beginner Italian level 1, Beginner Italian level 2, Intermediate. Look at that. Duolingo is very comforting, isn't it? Jim, I know Duolingo is very comforting, because it gives you that false confidence that, oh, I know. Look, I tried Duolingo, I tried Babel, I tried a few of those ones with Japanese, which, at least with Japanese, you can't even really guess a word. You either know or you don't. So it's a bit more useful, I suppose. But it was very comforting. I was getting 100 out of 100 every time, and yet no Japanese in me. And so, speaking partners, that's the last tip that I want to give you. If you're learning and you want to succeed, focus on those things like pronunciation, vocabulary, immersion, and as soon as you possibly can, get a speaking partner. Like, I know that at the beginning, your Italian is very basic. And you know that most people would get anxious to talk to you, okay? But that is where I would use my money. Find a tutor. Don't pay them to teach you Italian, because honestly, it's a kind of a waste of your money, because as good as of a teacher as they might be, you're paying them, and in that 1 hour, they're mostly explaining things that you will probably forget and have to ask them again, using another half hour of your paid time. So don't pay these people to teach you Italian. Find a course that you feel is going to work. Manu, Italy made easy, but whatever. As long as you know that the course is challenging you to speak and understand the language. And pay these people to be patient enough to talk to you, not correct your grammar. Not say, oh, no, you should say that. No, you should say that. You should say that. That is not comforting for you, right? You can still make this work for you. Get a speaking partner, pay them whatever you pay them. Of course, now, if you're in Amico Extra, you can talk to us every day. We're online for a few hours a day. You can video chat to us, obviously. But if you're not in the Academy, pay somebody to not teach you, but to let you practice the stuff. So if all you know how to say is your name and introduce yourself, pay them for half an hour, hopefully, maybe not an hour. And all you do is, buongiorno, buongiorno. Or let's say you start with buongiorno. They might correct you and say buongiorno, and then you just imitate that. And then And then might ask come ti chiami, and they say, mi chiamo Marco, blah, blah. And then, you know what, next time you see them, you do the same thing. That is why we have Amico Extra, because you don't have to pay anybody, but then you can do the same thing every day. It's only 10 minutes of your time, but you're practicing how to express those thoughts every day, and it works, okay? Now, here we are. I'm going to open to questions, and let me see if I can bring in the chat into this, okay? It may not work, okay? So while you type your questions, forget the chat. Let's not do it. Okay. Allora, vocab question, Jim, yes. I have been adding words to Quizlet as I came across them. It's time consuming. Is there a better way to get words to study? Yes, okay, I mean, so now Quizlet is a great tool, but yeah, it does take time to add them. You could use paper flashcards. I mean, the idea of Quizlet came from flashcards, so you can just cut out words, you're just writing them. To be honest, the best way to learn and memorize a word, you do have to write it down, otherwise you forget. I know, I agree with that. But is to use them immediately. So there's an exercise that I do in my courses, which is if you've just learned 5 words because you looked them up, they came up, whatever, use them in a sentence right now, and then write a story with them. So if you've just learned montagna, fiume, e lago, so mountain, river, and lake. So of course you would take some time to write them down. Montagna, okay, sounds like mountain, that's not hard. Fiume, that's river. I don't know if you have the word fluvial in English, but you know, it could be hard to remember. So fiume, you might make a mnemonic to remember it, okay. Lago, lake, oh, it's got the same beginning. It's not that different, but I might forget. So you write them down. And then you make a story. So you take the time, because, you know, I know Jim is time consuming, but you gotta put in the time. But now, of course, you put the time in the things that you know are gonna work for you. So if that doesn't work for you, don't do it. But take the time, the same time, and make a story. If you know, I don't know, this is for beginner, but you know, I know you, Jim. So if you know the past tense, you might say, ieri sono andato in montagna con la mia famiglia. Abbiamo visto un fiume, blah, blah, blah. So you make a story. And then you just read it to yourself. It doesn't have to be correct, okay? But you're using the words in context right now. Because some words, you might learn them today and forget them tomorrow because they're just so difficult, okay? Allora, chi c'è? Is it better to, SM Talks, is it better to learn verbs as vocabulary rather than drills of tenses? That's a good idea to make a story. Yes, okay, good. So I think I understood your question. Should you just learn the infinitive of a verb? Yes, you should learn verbs as vocabulary, for sure. So, you know, you should learn dipingere, means to paint artistically, dipingere. You should learn that pitturare means to paint mostly like a wall, okay? But, so yes, but then you still have to do some drills, unless you're very good with conjugating regular verbs. Now, dipingere is not irregular. Dipingere, dipingo, dipingi. It's a bit difficult. You may have to do a drill with that. Pitturare, just a normal verb, so you don't have to drill it. So pitturare, io pitturo, tu pitturi. So if you're good with conjugating on the fly, then you wouldn't do the drill, but you should learn verbs as vocabulary. Yes, I agree. Okay. Donna, you have so many amazing courses on your site. How do I know where to start? I know. Look, my courses have been built over time before I could deliver on camera or before I had the technology to create a beautiful looking course. And they're all good. They all work. If you look at the reviews of any of my old courses, they all have like 5 stars mostly. People like these are really helping students. I would still lean towards my thing called From Zero to Italian. From Zero to Italian is a program that is going to be made up of 8 courses. So it's like, look, it's like Rosetta Stone. They have like 5 levels or whatever, you know. Okay, so it's like the idea is that it's got 8 levels, and it starts from beginner Italian level 1, and then it'll go all the way to advanced. I haven't produced the advanced levels yet. We're just finishing the intermediate course. I would start with that because they're the top level courses that you will find. They're the best courses I've produced, and they're the ones that are really geared towards fluency, not just giving you the reassurance that you can say my cat is black. Okay, so I feel awkward reading your comments, but okay, why not? I mean, I feel awkward because they are lovely comments. Okay. So, Danny, I have been a member of From Zero to Italian and the Academy since I started. Manu is simply the best teacher, Italian language coach out there. Thank you for calling me a language coach, okay? So, any more questions before we wrap it up? So again, my job is to inspire you to keep going with Italian. Don't give up just because it gets difficult. If we are honest with ourselves, we know that we're not putting in the right amount of effort. Then we would, or we will. If not, we accept our level. Since you're here and you spent 2 hours with me, I know that you're in the top tier of students, Italian students of Italian, and I know that you want to succeed, and I don't want you to make the usual mistakes, which are usually just going quickly over the basics and then start going ahead and then realize that it's getting overwhelming. That's because you didn't master the basics. And also, I like to inspire you, Palli too. I like to inspire you to the fact that you can learn Italian. I've seen it, okay? I've seen it. It's possible. It's about keep at it and knowing what to do. And okay, I'm going to leave you with my belief. It's a tough one to digest. I hope you don't start disliking me for this, but I've noticed that if you do what everybody else is doing, you are probably not going to succeed in anything. If you eat like everybody else is eating, you are going to end up overweight with a lot of disease, because that's what the masses are doing with lack of information and knowledge. If you try to learn something the way everybody else, okay, financial, if you try to look after your finances the way everybody else is doing, you probably find yourself, needing to retire and, struggle, or, like, no money or whatever, because most people end up like that. And so I intentionally ask myself, am I doing this the way everybody else is doing, or am I doing it differently, researched, and in a way that I know I'm putting in more effort? And it's the same with language. I'm not saying it's our fault. If I say, oh, I want to learn how to do something, then oh, what's available? Oh, this one, I'll go. But for me is the things with like Duolingo or Rosetta Stone, they're hugely massive, but that's because they have a budget to be present everywhere. But they don't teach how to speak and understand the language because it takes more effort. And so it's not their fault. It's our fault that we believe that they will. And so I know that you're different, but do a reality check every now and then as you're learning Italian. Are you looking for the right information? Are you putting the effort on the things that matter? And in most cases, nobody tells you what matters. And so I hope that my coaching is useful for that. I'm not here, honestly, I only get, every now and then I get one criticism on YouTube is, but this video is in English, but I'm here to learn Italian. No, if you were at a point where you knew Italian, you'd be watching Italian stuff. So I'm here to help you with the mindset of learning a language. And so I do it in a way that you are more likely to understand, more than, oh, I'm trying to understand what he's saying, but I don't understand what he's saying. And what I'm saying is very important. And so that's my job for you. Love you, vi voglio tanto bene. Grazie mille per aver partecipato a questa masterclass di Italy Made Easy Academy esclusiva per Amico Extra subscribers. If you remember, you will find it in, not now, but like in a few hours, tomorrow, you will find it in the archive, ok? Grazie mille, un abbraccio e alla prossima.